Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Hamilton, watching stars drift by through the main screen. Space looked peaceful out here in the outer rim, but Jake knew better. 20 years of exploring the unknown had taught him that space was never truly empty or safe. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Sam Griffin from his position at the communication station. His young face showed confusion as he stared at his instruments. "There's an energy reading, coming from the dead system ahead." Jake walked over to look at the readings. The Kepler 442 system had been marked as empty for decades. No planets, no life, nothing but cold space and distant stars. "What kind of energy?" he asked. "I don't know, sir. It's not like anything in our database. The signal is very weak, but it's definitely there." Dr. Lisa Turner looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on alien artifacts and ancient civilizations. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her eyes showed the excitement of someone who lived for discoveries. "Captain, may I suggest we investigate? If there's something out there, it could be important." Jake nodded. "Commander, Bell, set course for the source of that signal." Ryan Bell, the ship's first officer, was a careful man who always thought about dangers first. "Sir, should we call for backup? We don't know what we're dealing with." "We'll take a look first," Jake decided. "If it's dangerous, we can always retreat." The Hamilton moved deeper into the dead system. As they got closer, the energy readings grew stronger. Sam Griffin kept checking his instruments, his frown getting deeper. "Captain, this is really strange. The energy seems to be coming from something big, but I can't see anything on the visual sensors." "There," Dr. Turner pointed at her screen. "I'm detecting a large mass, but it's not reflecting any light or radio waves. It's like a hole in space." Jake felt a chill run down his back. In all his years of exploration, he had never seen anything like this. "Put it on the main screen." The screen showed empty space for a moment. Then the computer adjusted the image, outlining something massive floating in the darkness. It was a ship, but unlike any ship Jake had ever seen. It was completely black, so dark that it seemed to absorb all light around it. The shape was long and smooth, with curves that didn't follow any known design. "My God," whispered Amy Carter, the chief engineer. She was young but brilliant, and Jake had learned to trust her judgment about technology. "That thing is huge, at least 3 kilometers long." Dr. Turner was already running scans. "Captain, this vessel is ancient. The computer estimates it's been here for millions of years. But there are signs of recent activity. Some systems are starting to come online." "Recent activity?" Jake asked. "How recent?" "Within the last few hours, right around the time we entered this system." The bridge fell silent. Jake stared at the black ship on the screen. It looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its smooth curves reminded him of pictures he had seen of deep-sea creatures, things that lived in the dark depths of Earth's oceans. "Captain," Sam Griffin said quietly, "I'm picking up new signals. The ship is scanning us." "Scanning us how?" "I don't know. It's not using any technology I recognize, but I can feel it somehow, like something is looking at us very carefully." Jake made his decision. "Dr. Turner, prepare an away team. We're going aboard." Commander Bell stepped forward. "Sir, I don't think that's wise. We don't know what that thing is or where it came from." "That's exactly why we need to investigate," Jake replied. "This could be the discovery of a lifetime. We can't just walk away." Dr. Turner nodded eagerly. "I'll need Amy and Sam with me. If this ship is as old as the scans suggest, we might learn things that could change everything we know about the galaxy." Amy Carter looked nervous but excited. "Captain, what if the ship doesn't want visitors?" "Then we'll be very polite guests," Jake said with a small smile. "But something tells me it's been waiting for us." An hour later, Jake found himself in a shuttle heading toward the black ship. Dr. Turner sat beside him, checking her equipment for the 10th time. Amy Carter was running final tests on their communication devices, while Sam Griffin studied the strange energy patterns coming from the ship. As they got closer, the ship seemed to grow larger and larger. Its surface was perfectly smooth, like black glass. There were no visible weapons, no lights, no signs of any kind that this was a spacecraft built by living beings. There, Amy pointed to a section of the hull. I'm detecting an opening. It's like the ship is making a door for us. Jake watched as a section of the black surface simply melted away, revealing a docking bay that glowed with soft blue light. Well, that's convenient. Too convenient, Sam muttered. This thing knows we're coming. They docked without any problems. The air in the docking bay was breathable, which surprised everyone. Jake led the team through corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were the same black material as the outside, but they pulsed with faint patterns of light that moved like slow lightning. The architecture is incredible, Dr. Turner whispered. These corridors seem to follow mathematical patterns I've never seen before. Amy was scanning everything with her instruments. Captain, the technology here is so advanced that my equipment can barely understand it. It's like trying to explain a computer to a caveman. They walked deeper into the ship. The corridors seemed to change as they moved, becoming wider or narrower without any clear reason. Sometimes Jake thought he saw doorways that weren't there a moment before. Are we lost? Sam asked, looking around nervously. I don't think so, Jake replied. I think the ship is showing us where it wants us to go. They found themselves in a large chamber filled with symbols that covered the walls from floor to ceiling. The symbols glowed with the same blue light as the docking bay, pulsing in slow rhythms that almost seemed like breathing. Dr. Turner rushed to examine the symbols. These aren't like any language I've ever seen. They're not just writing, they're something else, something that combines meaning with energy. Amy's instruments started acting strangely. Captain, my scanners are picking up massive power sources all through this ship, but the energy patterns keep changing, like the ship is adapting to our presence. Jake felt something change in the air around them. The symbols on the walls began to pulse faster, and he could swear he heard a sound like distant music. I think it's trying to communicate with us. Sam's communication device crackled to life. Instead of static, they heard a sound like whispers, in a language that was almost familiar but not quite understandable. Dr. Turner stepped closer to one of the walls. As she reached out to touch a symbol, it flared brighter. It's responding to us. This ship isn't just ancient technology, it's alive somehow. Suddenly, all the symbols in the chamber blazed with brilliant light. The ship around them began to hum with deep, powerful vibrations that Jake could feel in his bones. Through the communication device, they heard something that sounded almost like words, but in no language any human had ever spoken. Captain, Amy said, her voice shaking. The ship is powering up. All of it. Energy levels are rising throughout the entire vessel. Jake realized they had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't just discovered an ancient ship. They had awakened, something that had been sleeping for millions of years, and now it was very much awake and aware of them. The humming grew louder, and Jake could feel the ship's attention focused on them like the gaze of some vast, ancient mind. Whatever they had found, it was far more than just a ship, and it was very interested in the small group of humans who had disturbed its long sleep. 3 days had passed since the Hamilton discovered the black ship. Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair staring at reports that made no sense. The ancient vessel had changed everything, and not in ways he liked. Captain, Admiral Kate Sullivan, is requesting immediate communication, Sam Griffin announced from his station. His voice carried worry that had been there since they left the black ship. Jake nodded. Put her through. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Behind her, Jake could see the bridge of her flagship, the massive USS Colorado. Captain Morrison, what exactly did you find out there? Ma'am, it's hard to explain. The ship is unlike anything we've ever seen. Ancient, but somehow alive. When we boarded it, the whole thing powered up like it was waiting for us, and now it's broadcasting signals across half the galaxy, Sullivan said grimly. We've got alien governments calling us every hour, demanding to know what we've awakened. The Zephyrians are particularly upset. Dr. Turner looked up from her research station. Admiral, the signals aren't random. They're mathematical sequences, but they're being sent through dimensions we can barely detect. Someone or something is listening. Sullivan's expression grew darker. Doctor, I'm bringing a full scientific team to study this thing. Dr. Ben Parker will be leading the research. He's an expert on dangerous alien technology. Jake felt uneasy. Dr. Parker had a reputation for caring more about results than safety. Admiral, with respect, this ship seems to respond to the people who board it. Bringing too many people might not be wise. Captain, this situation is beyond your small exploration ship. I'm arriving with 3 battlecruisers and a full Marine battalion. Colonel Matt Torres will be handling security. The communication ended, leaving Jake staring at the blank screen. He had a bad feeling about bringing the military into this. The black ship had been peaceful so far, curious about humans but not hostile. Heavy military presence might change that. Amy Carter walked over to him. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy readings from the ship. It's not just broadcasting those signals. It's also doing something to space around it. The fabric of reality seems different near that vessel. Different how? I can't explain it properly. It's like the ship exists in more dimensions than we can see. When I look at the readings, sometimes I feel like I'm looking at something much bigger than what we can observe. Doctor, Turner joined them. Captain, I've been having strange dreams since we visited the ship. Dreams about vast wars among the stars, civilizations that spanned entire galaxies. And in every dream I see ships like the black one. Sam Griffin turned around from his station. I've been having similar dreams, but in mine I see Earth. I see humanity, but we look different. More advanced, but also changed somehow. Jake felt a chill. He had been having dreams too, but hadn't wanted to worry his crew. Dreams of beings that looked like they had once been human but had become something else, something that could travel between stars with just a thought. 2 days later, Admiral Sullivan arrived with her fleet. Jake watched from the Hamilton's bridge as 3 massive warships took positions around the black vessel. The ancient ship hadn't reacted to their presence, but its energy output had increased. Captain Morrison, report to the Colorado immediately, came Sullivan's order. An hour later, Jake found himself in a briefing room with people he didn't recognize. Admiral Sullivan sat at the head of the table with Dr. Ben Parker to her right. Parker was a thin man with cold eyes who looked at everything like it was a problem to be solved. Dr. Parker has reviewed your reports, Sullivan began. He believes this ship represents either a great opportunity or a terrible threat to humanity. Parker leaned forward. Captain, you've described a vessel that responds to human consciousness and broadcasts signals we can't understand. In my experience, such technology is usually a trap. A trap? Jake asked. Ancient civilizations often left behind testing devices. Ships or structures designed to evaluate younger species that discover them. Some species pass these tests in advance. Others fail and are eliminated. Colonel Matt Torres, a large man, with scars on his face, spoke up. Which is why we need to approach this carefully. My Marines are ready to secure the vessel if it becomes hostile. Jake shook his head. Colonel, I don't think force is the answer here. The ship has been peaceful. It seems curious about us, not threatening. Peaceful until now, Parker corrected. But we don't know what will trigger a defensive response. That's why we need to study it thoroughly before it decides we're a threat. Dr. Turner, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Doctors, I've been analyzing the symbols we found inside the ship. They're not just decorative. They're some kind of recording system. The ship is documenting everything about us. Documenting? For who? Sullivan asked. I think for whoever built it. The ship might be sending information about humanity somewhere else. Parker's eyes lit up with interest. If that's true, then we need to control what information it sends. We can't let unknown aliens learn our weaknesses. Jake felt his temper rising. Dr. Parker, this ship might represent the greatest discovery in human history. We should be trying to understand it, not control it. Understanding and controlling often go together, Captain. The briefing ended with plans to send larger teams aboard the black ship. Jake didn't like it, but he had his orders. Over the next few days, dozens of scientists and Marines boarded the ancient vessel. Amy Carter reported strange findings. Captain, the ship is changing. The corridors are different now. New rooms are appearing, and some of the old ones have vanished. It's like the ship is rebuilding itself. Dr. Turner had more disturbing news. The symbols are changing too. New ones appear every day and they seem to be recording everything our people do and say. But the most alarming report came from Dr. Parker himself. Admiral, the ship appears to be converting matter from nearby asteroids. It's growing. The hull is extending in several directions and new sections are being added. Jake watched the reports with growing concern. The ship was definitely more active since the arrival of the military. It wasn't hostile, but it was doing things it hadn't done before. Then came the news that changed everything. Agent Nina Ross, a quiet woman from Federation Intelligence, arrived with information that made everyone stop talking. She had contacted the Zephyrian Collective, humanity's alien allies. The Zephyrians are terrified, she reported to the senior staff. They call ships like this sleeper vessels. According to their oldest records, such ships belong to beings they call the architects, beings that once ruled the galaxy before vanishing millions of years ago. Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. What happened to these architects? No one knows. They simply disappeared, but they left behind warnings. The Zephyrians say that when a sleeper vessel awakens, it means the architects are returning. Dr. Parker scoffed. Alien superstition. These architects are probably long extinct. Maybe, Ross continued. But the Zephyrians aren't the only ones worried. I've received messages from 6 different alien governments. They all know about these ships, and they all want us to stay away from it. Jake felt pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The dreams my crew has been having, the way the ship responds to us, what if it's not just studying us, what if it's preparing us for something? Preparing us for what? Sullivan asked. Before anyone could answer, Sam Griffin's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, all senior staff to the bridge immediately. The ship is doing something new. They rushed to the bridge to find the main screen showing the black vessel. But it was no longer alone. Smaller ships, sleek and dark like the main vessel, were emerging from its hull. They moved with impossible grace, phasing in and out of normal space. How many? Sullivan demanded. 12 so far, reported the tactical officer. They're not attacking. They're just watching us. Dr. Turner stared at the screen in amazement. It's building an escort. The ship is creating its own fleet. Jake felt a deep unease settling in his stomach. Whatever they had awakened, it was far more than just an ancient ship. It was something that could create new vessels from nothing, something that had been waiting for humanity to find it. And now that it was awake, Jake wondered if they would be able to control what came next. The black ship pulsed with new energy, and Jake could swear he heard something like laughter in the depths of space. Ancient, patient laughter that had been waiting millions of years for this moment. The war started 2 weeks after the black ship created its escort fleet. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Hamilton, reading battle reports that made his heart sink. The galaxy was falling apart, and somehow it was all connected to their discovery. Captain, incoming message from Federation Command, Sam Griffin announced. His face looked older now, worn down by the stress of recent events. It's General Alex Cooper. The general's weathered face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Jake could see the chaos of a military command center during wartime. Captain Morrison, I need you to understand the situation. The Korthak Empire has declared war on humanity. They believe the black ship is a weapon we're preparing to use against them. Jake shook his head. General, that's not true. The ship hasn't shown any hostile intent toward anyone. Try telling that to the Korthaks. They've already destroyed 3 of our colonies. Admiral Sullivan's fleet is the only thing standing between them and our core worlds. Dr. Turner looked up from her station. General, has anyone tried to explain to the Korthaks what the ship really is? General Cooper's expression was grim. Doctor, we don't know what the ship really is. That's part of the problem. We have an ancient alien vessel that's creating new ships and broadcasting unknown signals across the galaxy. From the outside, it looks exactly like a superweapon. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Jake stared at the tactical display showing Korthak fleet movements. The lizard-like aliens had always been aggressive, but they had never launched such a massive attack before. Amy Carter walked over to him. "Captain, I've been monitoring the Black Ship's smaller vessels. They're not just watching us anymore. They're mapping everything. Our ship designs, our weapons, our defensive positions. It's like they're preparing a complete report on human military capabilities." "For who?" Jake asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. "I think for whatever created the ship in the first place." Dr. Rachel Stone, the ship's psychologist, joined their conversation. She had been studying the mental effects of prolonged exposure to the Black Ship. "Captain, I need to report something disturbing. The crew members who have spent the most time aboard the alien vessel are changing." "Changing how?" "Their brain patterns are different. They're becoming more intelligent but also more detached from normal human emotions. They speak about humanity, like we're an interesting science project rather than their own species." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are they still loyal to humanity?" "I don't think they see loyalty the same way anymore. They talk about the greater purpose and cosmic responsibility. When I ask them to explain, they just smile and say I wouldn't understand yet." Lieutenant Eva Price, the ship's best pilot, entered the bridge with a worried expression. "Captain, I just returned from a reconnaissance mission. There are more Black ships out there, 7 of them, all heading toward a point in deep space that doesn't appear on any of our charts." Jake looked at the star charts Eva had brought. The location she marked was in an area of space that seemed empty, but his instruments showed strange readings from that direction. "What's at those coordinates?" "I don't know, sir. Space gets weird around that area. My instruments couldn't get clear readings, and I felt strange when I got close to it." "Strange how?" Eva struggled to find words. "Like something very big and very old was watching me. Like I was a mouse that had wandered into a cathedral." Dr. Turner had been listening to their conversation while working at her station. "Captain, I think I know what they're looking at." She brought up her research on the main screen. "I've been analyzing the mathematical sequences the Black Ship has been broadcasting. They all point to the same location in space. The coordinates Eva found match my calculations." "What's there?" "According to the ship's data, it's something called the Nexus. I don't understand what that means, but the ship treats it as extremely important." Admiral Sullivan's voice suddenly crackled over the communication system. "All ships, this is..." "Admiral Sullivan, we have a situation. The Ethereal Syndicate has arrived." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Ethereal Syndicate was a collection of alien species that had a reputation for making deals that always favored them. If they were here, it meant they saw an opportunity to profit from humanity's troubles. "Captain Morrison, report to the Colorado immediately," Sullivan ordered. An hour later, Jake found himself in the same briefing room where this had all started, but now the atmosphere was tense with the reality of war. Admiral Sullivan looked exhausted, and Dr. Parker seemed excited in a way that made Jake uncomfortable. "The Ethereals have made us an offer," Sullivan began. "They claim they can help us understand the Black Ship and deal with the Korthak threat." Agent Nina Ross, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "What do they want in return?" "Access to all our research on the Black Ship, plus exclusive trading rights in 12 star systems." Jake shook his head. "Admiral, that would make us dependent on them. We'd lose our independence." "Captain, we might not have a choice," Sullivan replied. "The Korthaks are winning this war. Their technology is better than ours, and they have more ships. If the Ethereals can help us end this conflict, we might have to accept their terms." Dr. Parker leaned forward eagerly. "There's something else. I've made a breakthrough in understanding the Black Ship's technology. The vessel isn't just a ship, it's a test." "What kind of test?" Sullivan asked. "The ship is evaluating humanity. Everything it's doing, the scanning, the mapping, the creation of escort vessels, it's all part of an assessment. We're being judged by whatever intelligence created this vessel." Colonel Torres, who had been studying tactical reports, looked up. "Judged for what?" "I believe we're being tested to see if humanity is ready for something. The question is, what happens if we pass the test? And what happens if we fail?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Sam Griffin's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, all senior staff to the bridge immediately. The black ship is moving. They rushed to the bridge to find controlled chaos. The main screen showed the ancient vessel slowly turning away from its position. Its escort of smaller ships moved with it in perfect formation. "Where is it going?" Sullivan demanded. "Toward the Nexus," Eva Price reported from the pilot station. "The coordinates I found earlier." Dr. Turner was frantically checking her readings. "Admiral, the ship is broadcasting a new signal. It's not mathematical this time. It's almost like a message. Can you translate it?" "I'm trying, but it's not in any language. It's more like pure meaning being transmitted directly. I think it's saying goodbye." Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. "It's leaving. The ship tested us, and now it's going to report back to whoever sent it." "But what were the results of the test?" Sullivan asked. Dr. Parker was studying his instruments with growing excitement. "Admiral, I don't think the test is over. Look at the energy readings from the ship. They're increasing exponentially. Whatever it's planning to do at the Nexus, it's going to require enormous amounts of power." Agent Ross received a message on her personal communicator. Her face went pale as she read it. "Admiral, I just got word from our intelligence network. The Korthaks aren't the only ones mobilizing fleets. 6 different alien governments are sending warships toward our space. They're all converging on the location of the Nexus." Jake stared at the tactical display showing the movements of multiple alien fleets. "They're not coming to help us. They're coming to stop whatever the black ship is planning to do." "But what is it planning?" Sullivan asked. Dr. Turner looked up from her station with wide eyes. "According to the patterns in its broadcasts, I think it's calling something. The ship isn't just reporting to its creators, it's summoning them." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They had found an ancient ship that had been waiting millions of years for the right species to discover it. Now, it was calling its creators back to the galaxy, and every other intelligent species was terrified of what that might mean. Jake watched the black ship disappear into the distance, heading toward its mysterious destination. Behind it, fleets of alien warships were gathering for what might be the greatest battle in galactic history, and humanity was caught in the middle, not knowing if they would survive what they had awakened. The test was far from over, and Jake had a sinking feeling that the hardest part was yet to come. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Hamilton, watching the most incredible sight he had ever seen. The Nexus was not empty space as they had thought. It was a massive structure that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, shifting and changing as he looked at it. Around it, hundreds of ships from dozens of different alien species had gathered in a tense standoff. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Sam Griffin announced. His voice was different now, calmer and more distant than it used to be. The changes Dr. Stone had warned about were affecting more of the crew each day. "Put it through," Jake said. The face that appeared on the screen was not human, but Jake recognized the species. President Helen Ward of the Terran Federation appeared alongside several alien leaders he had seen in diplomatic reports. Behind them, Jake could see the bridge of humanity's newest and most advanced ship. "Captain Morrison," President Ward began, "you're the person who started all of this. We need you to help us finish it." Jake nodded. "What's the situation, Madam President?" Admiral Mike Roberts, who was standing beside the president, answered. "Captain, we have 17 different alien fleets surrounding the Nexus. Everyone is waiting to see what happens when the black ship reaches its destination. Some species want to destroy it before it can complete its mission, others want to capture it, and a few seem to want to help it." "What does humanity want?" Jake asked. "We want to understand," President Ward replied. "Dr. Carl Jensen, our best physicist, has been studying the data you collected. He believes the Nexus is some kind of gateway. The black ship isn't just calling its creators, it's opening a door for them to return." Jake felt a familiar chill. "Return from where?" Dr. Jensen, a nervous-looking man with thick glasses, leaned into view. "Captain, based on your ship's readings, I believe the creators of the black ship didn't disappear millions of years ago. They evolved beyond physical existence. They became beings of pure energy and consciousness existing in dimensions we can barely detect. And now they want to come back? Not exactly. I think they want to decide whether our dimension is ready for them to return. The Black Ship has been gathering information about all the species in the galaxy. It's preparing a report that will determine the fate of every living being in our part of space. Jake looked at his crew. Sam Griffin and Dr. Turner were listening, but their expressions showed the same detached calm he had been seeing more often. Amy Carter still seemed mostly herself, but even she appeared different, as if she was seeing things from a much wider perspective than before. "Captain," Dr. Turner said in her new, distant voice, "the ship is almost at the Nexus. When it arrives, the creators will make their decision. Some species will be allowed to continue existing. Others will be reset to start their development over again, and a few might be invited to join the creators in their evolved state." "How do you know this?" Jake demanded. "Because I've been in contact with the ship," she replied calmly. "We all have, those of us who spent enough time aboard it. We understand now what this is really about." Admiral Sullivan's voice suddenly crackled over the communication system from her flagship. "All Federation ships prepare for possible combat. The Korthak fleet is moving toward the Black Ship." Jake watched on his tactical display as the lizard-like alien ships broke formation and headed directly for the ancient vessel. Their intent was clear. They planned to destroy it before it could complete its mission. "They're going to start a battle right at the Nexus," Amy warned. "If weapons fire hits that structure, it could tear a hole in space itself." Jake made his decision. "All hands prepare for emergency acceleration. We're going to intercept the Korthak fleet." "Captain," Sam said with his new unsettling calm, "that isn't necessary. The creators have anticipated this." Before Jake could ask what he meant, space around the Nexus began to change. The structure pulsed with brilliant light, and suddenly, dozens of new ships appeared. These vessels were similar to the Black Ship but larger and more complex. They moved with impossible grace, seeming to exist in normal space and higher dimensions at the same time. "My God," whispered Commander Luke Foster, who had recently been assigned to replace Jake as captain when the psychological changes became too severe. "Where did they come from?" "They were always there," Dr. Turner explained, "waiting in dimensions we couldn't see. The Black Ship was just the first to reveal itself. The new ships didn't attack the Korthak fleet. Instead, they simply surrounded them." Jake watched in amazement as the alien warships stopped moving, as if their crews had suddenly lost all will to fight. Then Jake heard a voice in his head. It wasn't his own thoughts, and it wasn't coming through the communication system. It was something else entirely, something that spoke directly to his consciousness. "Children of the stars," the voice said, "you have been tested and measured. Some of you have shown wisdom. Others have shown only fear and aggression. The time has come for judgment." On the main screen, Jake could see that similar things were happening to all the fleets around the Nexus. Ships from every species had stopped moving, their crews apparently listening to the same voice. "The species you call Korthak have failed the test," the voice continued. "They respond to mystery with violence and to difference with hatred. They will be given another chance to learn, but not in this time. They will sleep until they are ready to grow." Jake watched as the Korthak ships began to change. They became dim and lifeless, drifting in space like empty hulls. He knew somehow that the crews were not dead, but sleeping, waiting for their species to mature enough to be awakened. "The ethereal syndicate seeks only profit and control," the voice said. "They too will sleep until they learn that true wealth comes from cooperation, not exploitation." More ships around the Nexus went dark. "But some species have shown promise," the voice continued, and Jake felt a warmth in his mind. "The Zephyrians have learned to value wisdom over power. They will be guided to greater understanding. The peaceful ones of the Far Rim have shown that strength can exist alongside gentleness. They too will advance." Jake held his breath, waiting to hear humanity's fate. "And the humans," the voice said, and Jake could swear he heard something like amusement in it. "Curious, stubborn, willing to risk everything for knowledge. They have potential, but they are not ready for full membership in the cosmic community." Jake felt his heart sink, but the voice continued. However, they have shown something rare among young species. When faced with the unknown, they chose understanding over fear. When offered power, some chose wisdom. They will be given a unique opportunity. The black ship at the center of the nexus began to glow brighter. Around it, the structure itself started to change, becoming less solid and more like flowing energy. Humanity will be permitted to grow slowly into cosmic awareness. You will retain your essential nature while gradually developing greater abilities and understanding. Some of your people, those who have already begun to change, will serve as bridges between your species and ours. Jake looked at Dr. Turner and Sam Griffin. They were smiling now, but their smiles held knowledge that seemed too vast for human minds. The black ship will remain with you as a teacher and guide. Learn from it, grow with it, and when you are ready, perhaps in a few thousand years, you will join us among the stars. The voice faded, leaving Jake feeling both relieved and somehow empty. Around the nexus, the fleets of various species began to disperse. Some ships carried sleeping crews back to their home worlds. Others carried species that had been chosen for advancement to unknown destinations. President Ward's face appeared on the screen again. Captain Morrison, it seems humanity has been given a second chance. The question now is what we do with it. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Some were still fully human, others were becoming something more. But they were all still his people, still part of the same species that had reached for the stars despite every danger. We learn, he said simply. We grow, and we try to prove that they were right to give us this opportunity. The black ship turned toward Earth, its escort of smaller vessels following. It was no longer a mystery or a threat. It was humanity's teacher, carrying lessons that would take generations to understand. Jake Morrison smiled as he gave the order to follow it home. The test was over, but the real journey was just beginning.